Hello everyone. Last weekend I was lucky enough to attend Stalker Con in London, which as the name implies is a Walking Dead event in a similar kind of vein to Comic Con. All in all I had a pretty good time, but the event certainly wasn't without its fair share of problems. So in this video I'm going to discuss what I enjoyed as well as what I didn't. But before we delve into that, I want to give you a brief overview of what exactly was at Stalker Con. Firstly, we have the merchandise stalls, and boy was there a lot of them. As expected, most of them were selling Walking Dead related content, be it t-shirts, comics or paintings. Some of the stalls on display were a bit more quirky and inventive than the others. A stall that sold Walking Dead themed cupcakes was one that stood out to me the most. Maybe that's just because I like food. But all in all, my general view of a lot of the merchandise on offer was that it was overpriced and wasn't very unique. Although I'm probably in the minority, as most of the visitors in the building seemed to disagree with me, as they desperately searched their wallets for cash so they could purchase a replica of Lucille. Moving away from the merchandise stalls, another big feature of Stalker was the panels which included members of the cast. Unfortunately, unless you were prepared to shell out a lot of money to buy one of the premium style passes, you weren't allowed to sit in the audience of these panels and instead were forced to view them standing up from afar. To the organisers' credit, they did include a few big TV screens for the standing audience, but from my perspective I found it difficult to actually hear anything the actors were saying while standing, which meant I didn't really bother watching any of the panels for long, which is a shame as it was something that I was looking forward to beforehand. The last and arguably main feature of Stalker was the ability to have a picture and or autograph with the Walking Dead cast from past and present. The prices widely differed for each actor, so for example it would have set you back £20 to get a picture with Iron Singleton who played T-Dog, whereas Chandler Riggs who plays Carl cost a hefty £60 for one picture. One of the things that became apparent to me was that unless you had quite a lot of money to spend, you'd quickly end up in a situation where you would find yourself running out of things to do. Pretty much everything at the event had a price tag, and the only thing that could be experienced for free, that being the cast member panels, couldn't really be enjoyed to the fullest unless you had purchased a more prestigious and expensive pass. This was one of my main disappointments with the entire event. As someone who has never gone to a TV show convention before, I kind of hoped there would be other attractions that didn't cost an arm and a leg. Maybe they could have had some kind of museum to view which included items from the show. You know, just something that would have made up for the price of admission. Instead, if you didn't have a ton of cash, there was little to keep you entertained. However, despite my negativity surrounding how much everything cost, I did manage to meet and get a photograph with 3 different people. The first was Melissa Hutchinson who plays Clementine in the Walking Dead game. It cost me £30 to get a picture with her as well as an autograph, which I thought was pretty reasonable. The best part of meeting her was that her booth wasn't run like a production line. A lot of the other Stalker guests simply had their photo taken with a customer, then quickly moved on to the next person, whereas Melissa actually took the time to have a 5-minute conversation with the people she met. And I have to say she was really funny and lovely to talk to, and meeting her was probably the highlight of my day. Truth be told, I noticed there was a trend in which the more smaller guests actually took more time to talk to their customers. And I mean smaller in terms of overall fame, not size, although Melissa was pretty short. Even though these guests were cheaper than others to go and see, fans seemed to actually get more for their money. Using Iron Singleton again as an example, although I didn't go up and meet the fella, I'd run out of money by that point, he seemed genuinely thrilled to see people and spent a decent amount of time conversing with his fans. Caitlin Nason who plays Enid and Alexandra Breckenridge who played Jessie also seemed to really go the extra mile when signing autographs or having pictures taken. Now of course I understand that the likes of Norman Reedus and Andrew Lincoln can't spend 5 minutes chatting to every single fan due to how popular they are, but I actually think that I'd rather see as many of the lesser known guests as I can and get to spend more time with them, instead of queuing up for 6 hours to get a 10-second photo with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I mean that's just my personal view, of course others may disagree with me. I also managed to get a photo with Scott Wilson who previously played Herschel Green. His booth was one of the more popular ones at the event. However, I managed to see him with about 40 minutes of joining the queue, which isn't that half bad for someone who only had a general admission pass. The last photo I got was with Josh McDermott, aka Eugene. Now, I booked this photo beforehand through the Stalker website with a company called Celeb Photo Ops, and a warning to anyone who is also thinking of doing this. Although you will get a nice professional looking picture at the end of it, the company are bloody awful. I honestly think I would have just rather queued at his booth to get a picture instead. So what happened was that I had to go to a separate part of the hall, roughly 30 minutes before the photo op and await further instructions. There was nothing signposted when I got there, so no one really knew what was going on. In addition, the staff were really rude and spent most of their time shouting at the attendees. One member of staff kept shouting at people to move to the side as they were blocking the exit. The only problem was no one knew where the exit was as there were no visible signs. We were eventually told to queue in different lines. There were different lines for each cast member and different lines depending on what type of pass you had. The only problem was there was no barriers or gates to separate any lines, so people were a bit all over the place. In all honesty, the entire thing was run like a shit show, and as I said previously, although I'm happy with the photo that I got, the organisational and customer service skills of the staff employed by the company were absolutely awful. One thing that I don't really have any complaints about is the rest of the general public that attended the event. There was a really good atmosphere throughout the day, and it was pretty amazing seeing people walking around dressed up as walkers. Those who had come as the undead weren't afraid of interacting with others, and on more than one occasion I had someone try to eat me. All in all, despite my complaints, I did have a good time. It should be mentioned that it's only the second year that this event has been held in the UK, so I'm hoping that some of the problems that I've mentioned naturally improve over time. However, as I've stated before, a large portion of how much enjoyment you get out of Walker Stalker will unfortunately be linked to how much money you're prepared to part with, due to how little else there is to do at the convention. Although there are a lot of things that I didn't like about Walker Stalker, I'm currently looking at going again next year. Now I know what to expect, I think I can better prepare myself to make sure I have a more enjoyable time on my next visit. So there you have it, that's my summary of my time at Walker Stalker 2017. Let me know your thoughts below, perhaps you've been to something similar, perhaps you agree with the points I made, or perhaps you don't. Whatever you think, let me know, and I hope to see you all soon. Until next time, goodbye.